The Iranian foreign minister was very tough, and he told them that enrichment is a red line that will not be crossed, and that the United States has created this situation, and the Israeli regime obviously does not want a nuclear deal. And under these circumstances, we will continue to hammer the regime.
Can we know about the current situation, the interactions between Iran and Israel? And because in yesterday and the day before yesterday, they're talking about that Iran is reducing the number of missiles that go into Israel. What is that for, in your opinion?
Iran has now shifted to qualitative strikes, also used to draw fire from Israeli regime missile defenses, which are running out, so that in future, if it wants to use older missiles again, like it did during the first few days, it can do so without them being brought down or targeted by the Israeli regime.
The Iranian foreign minister was very tough, and he told them that enrichment is a red line that will not be crossed, and that the United States has created this situation, and the Israeli regime obviously does not want a nuclear deal. And under these circumstances, we will continue to hammer the regime. Can we know about the current situation, the interactions between Iran and Israel? And because yesterday and the day before yesterday, they're talking about Iran is reducing the number of missiles that go into Israel. What is that for, in your opinion? Iran has now shifted to qualitative strikes, also used to draw fire from Israeli regime missile defenses, which are running out, so that in future, if it wants to use older missiles again, like it did during the first few days, it can do so without them being brought down or targeted by the Israeli regime. So we see the Iranians doing different things in different days, during different times of days, to make it unpredictable for the Israelis. But alongside all of this is the calculation to empty American and Israeli missile defenses. Does Iran believe that Europeans can play a role in what's going on between Iran and the United States? I would argue even not Israel. The United States is behind all of this. How is it going to work for Europe? And the way that they're trying to do, I don't know. They're trying to do something. But how important is that in the eyes of Iranians? They're not important. They're not important at all. But I think the most important thing is that the Iranians want to see that the international community, and that doesn't mean the West, it means the international community, the broader international community, where the West is just a small part. They want them to see Iran as pursuing diplomatic solutions so that the American regime or the Trump regime or the Netanyahu and Israeli regime, they cannot turn the tables through their massive Western media apparatus. Because you know how we've seen the Western media, which hates Trump for the most part, when it comes to Zionism and ethno-supremacism and slaughtering children in Lebanon, they are fully with Trump and Netanyahu. So Iran knows that the best thing, the smartest thing to do is to show people across Latin America, across Africa, across Asia, among BRICS countries, Shanghai Cooperation Organization countries, and public opinion in the West itself. It wants to show all of them that we are the ones who are pursuing a peaceful solution within the framework of our international rights. And it is the other side that is brutal and aggressive and murderous and untrustworthy. I remember when the war in Ukraine started, they were trying, in the mainstream media, they were trying to picture everything differently in order to show how strong is Ukraine. The same sort of campaign is going on right now in the mainstream media in the West. They're trying to talk about Iranian missile program and how was that discussed during the meeting between the Iranian foreign minister and Europeans. the Iranians are not going to discuss their missile defense capabilities with anyone. And Nima, we've discussed this in the past before. Western media is just propaganda. And just like in the war in Ukraine, they were saying for 3 years, that the Ukrainians are winning and it was clear that they were losing. That's the same sort of strategy that corporate media is using today, and alternative media that's linked to the Zionists and uses Zionist money. Fact is, as we've discussed repeatedly then, all of Iran's key assets are underground. Everything is underground. They have not destroyed a single underground base with missiles or drones. Not one, nothing, zero, zilch. And the buildings that they are striking, for example, that belong to the nuclear program, they have all been emptied over the past week. There's nothing there for them to hit but empty buildings. Forget the fact that they're missing a lot. In Tehran, you can see how they're missing and how many of the missiles and drones are being downed. And increasingly, Iranian air defenses are improving. And also, people who've been bought off by the Israeli regime and their Al-Qaeda and ISIS people in Iran, they're being arrested. And we see the drone attacks, the numbers dropping quickly. All of that aside, everything aside, the Israeli regime, if it was succeeding, Trump would not be so eager, or so, not eager, but let's say so deeply concerned that he would be moving towards conflict with Iran. So the Israelis are having no success, especially after the first day and the first day and a half at most. They have not knocked out Iran's air defenses. They have not knocked out Iran's missile defenses. They have not destroyed anything strategic that belongs to our nuclear program. As I said, everything was taken underground during the last few days, and a lot of it was taken out before that because the Iranians were expecting an attack by the Israeli regime over the past few weeks. So, and even other buildings, even government buildings that have nothing to do with defense or Iran's civilian and civil nuclear program, they have taken precautions everywhere. So Israelis are failing. And as I said, the evidence for that is Trump's rush to bring in troops and station them in Saudi Arabia. And this is, by the way, not going to end well for the Saud family. This won't end well. And the people are talking about in Iraq, people are talking about the fact that it may be time to retake Kuwait, which is historically theirs, and Yemen may retake their territory in Hijaz in the Arabian Peninsula. The days ahead are going to be very decisive for the region and for the world, and there's nothing that the Americans will be able to do about it. So if Trump moves in, you will see Yemen and Iraq behave very differently, and the road will be open for them to do whatever they want. And I think the Americans know quite well that Iran will not relent in the Persian Gulf or anywhere else, because anywhere, any regime that has American bases or has American assets, they will be complicit. And I should point this out to your viewers that Iran's missile capabilities and drone capabilities for medium and short-range targets are far greater than their assets for long-range targets that are in Palestine. And it's much easier for them to move around missiles to strike the other side of the Persian Gulf, or to strike the Persian Gulf, or to strike targets near Iran. It's very easy. They have many more drones, many more missiles. And so Iran, as I've said before, when it comes to the Israeli regime, it has tens of thousands of missiles. And I think I heard that even Netanyahu admitted that it's well over 20,000. And Iranian factories are working, they are producing all their needs, and there's nothing that the Israelis can do about it. If the Americans attack, it will get very bloody. But Iran will make sure that there is no more oil coming from West Asia or the Caucasus. That will be finished. And so the world will face enormous consequences. And it will only be Trump and Netanyahu who will be to blame. And the Zionists and the world will know that. And Americans will know that. Americans, when the economy goes downhill and collapses, they'll be seeking out these warmongers and these Zionists and these neocons who push the country over the edge. You've mentioned the situation with Saudi Arabia. It seems that they're trying, if the United States attacks Iran, they're complicit in what the United States is doing because they're letting the United States come in and use their bases in Saudi Arabia. How if let's assume if the United States attacks Iran and Saudi Arabia is somehow helping the United States, what would be the reaction? The target would be Saudi Arabia or all of these countries who are participating in the Persian Gulf region, all of them that are complicit, and they will not last. And I think that it's pretty clear that Saudi Arabia will break up and the different tribes will get their territory. Yemen will get its territory. Iraq may get something. But if any of these regimes are complicit and they have their bases, they have American bases, they're already complicit. If Trump attacks, everything changes and they are incapable. Saudi Arabia could not defeat Yemen when Yemen was weak and vulnerable. Today, Yemen is much stronger. They defeated the United States. The Iraqis will not tolerate an attack on Iran. We saw how Iraqi religious leaders have made very strong statements over the last couple of days, and we saw major demonstrations in Iraq like we saw in Iran. We saw demonstrations while the Zionists were hiding. The Iranians were on the streets across the country defying the Israeli regime. The same was true in Iraq yesterday. So the Americans will lose everything. They will lose West Asia. And this is really serious business. And it will be their own fault. They will have no one to blame because we did not start this. But we will make sure that we come out of this victorious, and we will make sure that the United States and Trump and Netanyahu and the Israeli regime regrets any act of aggression that they carry out, that they've carried out, or that they wish to carry out against Iran. This is it. Iran is not going to hold back anymore. So we are, and as I said, the Israeli regime is already losing. It's clear they're losing. Otherwise, Trump, who is gloating on day one about the regime, why is he so in such a rush to attack Iran? And why is he in such a rush to carry out war, despite the fact that the overwhelming majority of Americans are opposed to this? And we see opponents of Zionism, and we see people turning against Zionism. I mean, it's quite stunning that the Americans are destroying all of the narratives they worked so hard to create for the last 4.5 decades. People across the world are turning to Iran. People are all now supporting Iran in parts of the world that you would not imagine. You see, across the region, Iran is becoming celebrated among people. People in Jordan, they go to the rooftops and celebrate when missiles go over a country and elsewhere. The mood is the same. So the United States and the Israeli regime have destroyed the image, the fake image that they created for themselves in the eyes of people across the world. And they've created an environment where people are now recognizing that Iran is the side that is opposed to genocide, ethno-supremacism. It is the victim, like the Palestinians, like the Lebanese, like the Gazans, like Yemen, like the poor Syrians who are now under the rule of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And it is the other side that is evil and aggressive. And in those countries in the region that are silent or that are still doing business and trade or that are hosting American bases, they are losing people. They're being exposed to their own people and the people of the world. So I do not see this as good news for the Americans. This is horrible news for Trump. This is horrible news for the Israeli regime. Again, Iran is not pushing for war, but Iran will defend itself. Iran did not start this war with the Israeli regime, but Iran is not going to give up its sovereignty and is going to punish the regime. And if the United States strikes, it will be painful, it will be bloody, but Iran will hit the United States in a way, and its regional allies in a way in which they will never recover. Gold it was this so-called regime change in Iran yesterday. We've seen the people of Iran coming out from all across the country. They knew who's the enemy right now. They know who's manipulating everything in Iran in order to achieve something. Is that the way that I think it? If we assume that was the goal, that is totally defeated by now. And there has to be something else to back up that with the new movement on the part of Israelis and the United States, name of people who would spend their days attacking the Islamic Republic of Iran day and night, they are now supporting it both within Iran and across the region. My own colleagues, those who are very harsh and constantly criticizing everything, they just spend their days often attacking and coming up to me and criticizing and complaining, even though I have no role to play.